Blackstone Audiobooks presents Charlie Wilson's War by George Crile. Author's Note: in little over a decade, two events have transformed the world we live in: the collapse of our Cold War nuclear foe, the Soviet Union, and the discovery, after 9/11, that we face a new global enemy in the form of militant Islam. Both have profoundly affected the United States, and in each instance, Americans were caught by surprise, unable to explain what had triggered these events. 9/11 was a watershed, as stunning in its boldness as it was frightening in its message. To this day, we know little about how it all worked or what was in the minds of the men who carried it out. Other than a shared religious identity, about the only obvious common denominator among the 19 terrorists was having spent time in Afghanistan. The fact that Afghanistan was the cradle of the attack should not have come as a surprise, for both the territory and the Islamic warriors who gather there are familiar to our government. Throughout the 1980s, the Afghan mujahideen were, in effect, America's surrogate soldiers in the brutal guerrilla war that became the Soviet Union's Vietnam, a defeat that helped trigger the subsequent collapse of the Communist Empire. Afghanistan was a secret war that the CIA fought and won without debates in Congress or protests in the street. It was not just the CIA's biggest operation, it was the biggest secret war in history, but somehow it never registered on the American consciousness. When viewed through the prism of 9/11, the scale of that U.S. support for an army of Muslim fundamentalists seems almost incomprehensible. In the course of a decade, billions of rounds of ammunition and hundreds of thousands of weapons were smuggled across the border on the backs of camels, mules, and donkeys. At one point, over 300,000 fundamentalist Afghan warriors carried weapons provided by the CIA. Thousands were trained in the art of urban terror. Before it was over, some 28,000 Soviet soldiers were killed. At the time, it was viewed as a noble cause, and when the last Soviet soldier walked out of Afghanistan on February 15, 1989, the leaders of the CIA celebrated what they hailed as the agency's greatest victory. The cable from
Sample complete. Ready to continue?